Hey everybody, welcome to episode 60 of Making It. I'm Bob Clagett, here with David Picciuto.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much, what's up?
Hanging out, recording a podcast.
Right on. And also, Jimmy Diresta.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening.
How are you guys?
I'm good. I'm glad I'm back in New York. Remember when we used to hang out in North Carolina, Bob? Just me and you?
Yeah, South Carolina.
Why do I always say that? I'm sorry.
I don't know. But yeah, I remember it because it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was a couple days ago. Yeah, the good old days. Way back.
Oh yeah, I guess it was 2 days ago.
48 hours ago.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Tell me about your experience.
So we were in Charleston, South Carolina for an event called Protocon, and it was I guess you would call it like a product development conference.
Yeah, it seemed like there was guys there just discussing the ins and outs of product development, getting patents, whether that's even worth it, and marketing your product. And then we were up there we were invited to be on a panel of a Q&A, me, Bob and Izzy, and Ben Heck. It was the four of us.
And Ben Heck was the keynote. So he did his keynote speech thing. And then we did a kind of an hour-long YouTube talk and talked about YouTube and education and videos and stuff. And then there were some people talking about commercialization and licensing and, lots of different stuff. They had a little maker lab out there where they were doing some printing and circuit stuff. And it was good, though. It was a cool event. Not too big, but, just enough people that it was like easy to get through and stuff. So we had fun.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool.
And then we got to go to Izzy's house, which was cool.
Oh, yeah, we got to see Izzy's shop in person, live and in person.
Yep.
That was cool.
Got to ride on the bulldog that he made. Pretty crazy.
That was fun. And then we played with his quad, his DJI copter, which he crashed. It came to a stall, and I got it on Snapchat. It was fun.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. He was flying it around in his front yard, and he's like, yeah, watch, I can fly it really far over here. And he flies it way down the road, flies it back, and it's just hovering right above his front yard. Like, I don't know, 300 feet up or something, pretty far up there.
It seemed high.
And it's just like sitting there flat, and he's talking. And then I think he just turned off the remote, not thinking about it. And it just fell straight down. And it hit the tree on the way down, kind of landed in the tree, but still hit the ground. He picked it up, set it upright, and took it off. And it flew just fine. Yeah. It was amazing. I thought for sure that thing would have exploded. But
yeah, it was amazing.
Pretty awesome.
Dead drop. Like the tree did break its fall, but it was a dead drop from at least 100 feet or more.
Yeah. Pretty far up there.
I started panicking because I was watching on the camera. I'm like, it stopped. It's falling. I started screaming because I was hoping he would like hit the switch and it would like come back to life and save itself, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So
but it was cool. We had a good time, and cool to see a lot of people came out and hung out with us and talked to us and stuff. So
yeah, we had an afternoon, sort of a late afternoon lunch with a lot of fans, and then we walked around the main drag there, and a lot of fans came and hung out with us while we kind of went in and out of shops. It was fun. We met a lot of cool people. A lot of people, like, again, just like we always do when we go to a new city, we meet people that we've been talking to online. We get to put a face and a personality to the Facebook meme or whatever it is. So it was definitely a lot of fun.
Cool. So what'd you do this weekend, David?
I worked on my cabinets.
Cool.
So yeah, I'll just dive into what I'm working on.
Dive in.
Yeah. So I finished up the cabinets. I actually finished them last night. Took way longer than I thought. A whole week longer due to poor planning and not knowing about hinges. And so that is done.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
I can. So, all right. So the first set of hinges that I got were they're made to mount on the side, and I wanted the kind that mounted to the back of the face frame.
Like, is it like European hinges? Is it that kind of hinge?
Yeah.
The ones that have the adjusting screws in them.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they come in two pieces. There's the hinge and then the plate. Yeah. So the guy at the store is like, "Oh, this is what you need," and I'm like, "Great." I get it home, and so just so you know, the doors are inset. And there's a face frame. So the doors are flush with the face frame.
Yeah, well, that's called, when you buy those, you call them inset or overlay, which means the door overlays the frame or is inset in the frame. So those are the two types you get.
And then, so I get home, and I'm like, oh, I got the wrong ones. These are the kind that mount to the side, not to the back of the cabinet. So I actually went to another store in town that has a way bigger supply of Euro hinges, and they're like, "Oh, we have the hinge that you want, but we don't have the plate for it. So we'll order the plate, come back in 2 days and get it." So third trip to the store, I get the plate and the hinge, and they're the kind that I need, but they're too wide, and my face frame in the back is only maybe an inch wide, but the face frame on the front is 1.75 inches. So there's not enough room for the hinge, and it overlays onto where the glass would be, so they don't work. So then another trip to the store, and I get regular just brass hinges, and then I installed them. They went on just fine, but after the second set of hinges didn't work, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make the first set work. I'll just build out the side of the cabinets and install them. I build them out so they're flush with the inside of the face frame, and the doors still catch as they're swinging open. And I'm like, this is terrible. So I knock off the build out, and there's a hole there from the mortise that I drilled from the previous hinge. And so I just took another sheet of 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch plywood, and I covered up the insides of it to cover up all my mistakes. You can't even tell that I went through 3 different versions of hinges unless you look at the back of the door and there's a bunch of holes drilled where the former hinges. So anyways, lots of trips to the store for the hinges. I screwed up the piece of glass during the etching process, so there was a second trip to get the glass for it. Then I didn't realize I realized I didn't have enough shelf pins that I needed, so it was another trip to the store.
It's like a plumbing job.
When I was actually making at the beginning stages, I didn't buy enough walnuts. So it was like a second trip. Like it was just trip after trip after trip, and it was so frustrating. I almost put it aside to finish it later on in the year, but I got through it and it's done. I finished them last night.
They look great.
Thank you. And so I just need to edit the video, but I don't have time to edit the video this week, so probably edit the video over the weekend and release it next week. So this week, what I'm working on is getting my shop ready for a shop tour. My buddy Eric is coming over to help me film it on Saturday. It's all going to be handheld, and he's going to follow me around with a camera. And so I'm trying to organize and find homes for all the tools. So I'm just getting ready for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
my next project. I'm going to plan so much better. It was so frustrating. It should have been done a week ago.
Well, all the problems you just went through with this particular project now are all embedded in your memory. So the next time you have to do anything like it, you don't really have to plan as much because you know all the problems that you need to work around.
I mean, it was definitely a learning experience for me. I've learned my lesson. I know what to do next time.
Those hinges are intimidating. Those type of well, they're intimidating to someone that's never done them. Once you do them a couple times, they're great. Actually, you should do a tips video about putting those hinges in and different types of hinges.
Yes.
Good idea. I'm going to write that down. Hold on.
Give
me a second while I write that down. Hinge tip video.
Hinges.
When you get to 500,000 subscribers, you can do a hinge video.
That's a good idea.
Show your hinge collection.
I'm going to show my spoon collection first.
You mentioned plumbing, and that's exactly the same scenario that I go through every single time I have anything to do with plumbing. Every single time I get the wrong fitting. I measure the inside diameter instead of the outside diameter, or some thing. Every single time. I hate plumbing stuff.
I still don't know.
Even though this,
I'm sorry, I still don't know when someone says, "Oh, that's a 1/4 inch pipe." I'm like, "But it's like 1.5 inches thick." What does that mean? I don't even. Dave knows all that, so I always got to check with Dave. I'm like, what is the size of this pipe? So when I go to the hardware store and he tells me, and it has no visible relationship to whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, that's 3/4 pipe. And then you get it and it's like, as big as a baseball bat. I'm like, what the? I'm going to get a million comments for saying that now. I'm going to go, it's simple. The 3/4 refers to the inside opening, but I can't.
Well, it's just like anything else, Yeah, if that's the thing that you do, plumbers, they're embedded in that. And they do it enough times. I do plumbing stuff once a year, max. As little as possible. So like only when I absolutely have to, I'll do plumbing, and then I get all confused about the fittings and the, whatever. Is it a pressure fit or a compression, or is it I don't know. There's all these acronyms now too. Yeah. When you go to Home Depot and you look on all the fittings, there's acronyms that didn't exist a few years ago.
I think there's something called a snake bite. Do you guys hear about that? Is that what, am I saying it right? Is there a snake bite type of pipes?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a quick fitting or something. But Anyway,
I always find myself, I'm standing in the aisle at Home Depot and I have my phone out and I'm watching like a YouTube installation video of all the, like, I'm learning while I'm in the aisle to try to figure out what I need to buy.
Yeah.
And we all know like a 10-minute, like the store, the supply store, the lumber place, they're only like 15 minutes away, but you know it's way more than just a 15-minute drive there, 15-minute drive back. You're there for 15 minutes. You have to stop what you're doing. You're taken out of your flow for the day. You get back.
And then you have to go back because you get the wrong fitting. Yeah. Every single time. Well, for me, I just finished up. Actually, I can. This is a project that I can show off here on the show. Ready? Here it is. Ready? See, you didn't hear that, right? Because it's a mute switch for my microphone.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to pull something out from under the table.
No.
Got excited.
Yeah, so you obviously I could be totally lying, but I did make a mute switch for my microphone. So if I need to cough or something, I can just step on the switch, and you can't hear it. So that's what I was working on. It's a really simple circuit. I have an XLR mic, so it was a really simple circuit. So I decided to make the box for it out of a hardwood and then aluminum on the top and bottom, just so it was a little more interesting than just a box.
So you just cut the circuit on the microphone wire. You just cut the line on the microphone wire.
Well, you don't actually cut it. You short it. So you connect it.
Oh, really?
You connect two of the terminals. There's 3 terminals. It's a phantom-powered microphone, so it requires 48 volts to work. And so when you short that out, no audio gets through. So that's what I'm doing for this one. It was really simple, but that was the project. And then that's coming up. That'll be out by the time this airs. And then I'm finishing up the editing for I made a shovel guitar for this guy named Rob Scallon. He's a YouTube musician, and he put up his video this week of him playing that. So he plays some heavy metal on it in the forest.
He rocked that shovel hard.
Yeah, he does that.
It was pretty awesome.
It doesn't sound like as much music can come out of that one string as he makes it sound like. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's good. He's really good.
It's really insane.
So I'm finishing my video for the build for that thing, and it'll be up next week after this show airs. But we got kind of off schedule. We were going to try to release at the same time, and sponsors and schedules and stuff just didn't work out. So anyway, but yeah, that's what I'm up to. What about you, Jimmy?
I just when we got back, I of course I have a never-ending list of things to do, and I'm working on a Federa. I probably mentioned it last week. A Federa electric guitar company has given me wood from Brooklyn, and so I'm working on their sign. Dan will be happy to hear that if Dan's listening. This is something I've been meaning to do literally since the summertime. And I'm also going to work on a sign for our friends at American Greenlight for a trade show for them. It's a trade. They've given me plenty of light, so I'm going to give them back a little sign. And just prepping. So it's one of those couple of weeks. I know I haven't really been putting out a lot of content, but it's one of those couple of weeks where I have like 4 half-done movies on my computer, and then they'll all kind of finish up at the same time. And I decided today what my core video is going to be, and it's going to be a toolbox. So I'm going to make a toolbox for myself. It's it's kind of like a mechanics toolbox, but for woodworking tools. So it's going to be a little unusual. So I just kind of came to that realization today. That's something I need and something that's going to be a good build. And I'm working on I'm making a desk for this children's room that I'm working on. So once I get the prototype done, I'm going to have to make 8 of them. So I'm working on that today as well. So just a little bit of everything. Moving it all along. Oh, and by the way, Dave Welder and I shot a Q&A video last night where I kind of talk about some of the cool mail I've been getting, and Dave and I just answer questions in the workshop. And Dave's cutting that together now. It's probably going to be about 25 minutes long, and it'll probably be on my channel. And that should be fun.
Sweet.
So
awesome.
Yeah, we're going to try and do that maybe once a month, because we get a lot of questions to the two of us, and we both get a lot of mail to the shop, to the P.O. box that services the shop. So it's just want to say thank you to a lot of people that are sending me cool stuff.
Plus, I like it when you talk in the videos.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's fun. It gives us too. It's we just ask like on Twitter and Snapchat, ask us a couple of questions, and we get silly ones, we get smart ones, and ones that cause us to act like idiots. So
that doesn't take much, right?
Awesome.
No, not when I'm with Dave.
All right. Yeah. So today we have a broad topic, but we're going to start it off with this one email from Lewis. And so I'll read the email from Lewis, and we'll go ahead and get started. Lewis writes, I recently got an iPhone. I've had an Android for years. With that said, I was wondering if any of you guys have an iPhone, and if you guys do you guys have any woodworking related apps? I've had some for my Android, but they don't seem to have ones for the iPhone. And the quick answer to that is I don't have any woodworking apps on my phone. But I do have a bunch of other apps. I have an iPhone, and I think all of us do. But I do use a bunch of other apps to help me in my woodworking or making or whatever I'm doing. And that includes, number one is Google and YouTube. So I run into issues with hinges, and I'll just look it up. Yeah. And I'll just look it up, and I'm like, oh, no wonder I have the wrong type of hinges. And so that's when my phone comes in really handy in the shop, or when I'm standing in the aisle at Home Depot. Something else is notes. I use notes all the time. So when I really want to be organized and build something fast, unlike this last project, I will list out all the cuts that I'm going to do. And what that does is there's no thinking involved. Once so I cut the sides. Now I know I'm going to do the cross cuts, and then I'm going to do all the rips, and then I'm going to do this and this and this. And notes makes me really efficient, which I didn't do for the last project. So sometimes I'll have my laptop in the shop, and I'll have my SketchUp model in there, and I can always go back and double check measurements. I don't have any woodworking apps. I think the ones that do exist talk about like wood movement and moisture. Not something I really concern myself with too much. I just prepare for wood movement and everything that I do, unless I'm working with plywood. But I do use the calculator quite a bit, because I'm trying to figure out like, okay, so if my top needs to be this wide or this long, if I want it to stick out 1.5 inches, and I have this face frame and blah, 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 blah. So I use the calculator quite a bit. So that is me. Do you guys have any apps that you like to use?
Well, I don't really have any woodworking apps on my phone. I do remember that when the iPhone first came out, there were some. There were like some levels where you could use the
level was cool.
Yeah, you could use that, and I feel like maybe there was some sort of a measuring one. Had something to do with like a sound from the speakers, and it would pick up the delay. It would like used like a ping, and the microphone would pick up the delay, so you could measure a distance, which seems like a very novel thing to do, but totally impractical. And that's kind of the way I felt about like even the measure or the level. It's like
right.
It's an interesting idea, proof of concept, but like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just, if you're in your shop? I mean, in a pinch, sure, you're hanging a shelf.
It was really for the person who was hanging like a picture.
Yeah, I guess so.
Thing.
Yeah.
I was actually on set once with a couple cameramen, and they started showing it to each other when the iPhone first came out, and they all dug it, and they used it to level off their tripods for whatever it was worth.
Yeah.
But, most tripods have the little spirit level on them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I could see like in that case, if you're in a pinch, yeah, it's awesome to have. But I've never really felt the need to. I guess I've never known of an app that would be useful enough to use. I would be curious what types of apps that guy actually had on his Android phone that he found useful, for that type
I'm
of
just
thing.
looking through the apps right now while we're talking. I'm going through the app list, and it's just a ton of, it's like woodworking tips, lots of, and they're very competitive. They're all very similar to each other. There's nothing that there's nothing that seems to stand out. Woodworking masterclass, 500 tutorial videos, and you got to pay for these. But I can't imagine there isn't anything that somebody's giving away for free on YouTube. Some woodworking 101, basic woodworking tools. It's all just stuff that we could just, and if you Google what it is you're curious about, I'm sure you could find it specifically on YouTube.
Yeah. So I'd be curious if him or anybody else, if they know of an app that's actually useful and they found to be useful in the shop or something, I would love to hear about it. They should tweet at us or email. That'd be cool.
It's one that's $5. It's woodworking calculators. And, I don't know. I just use a regular calculator because, all those things. I guess it just kind of formulates a lot of the different stuff. Like if you're trying to find the area of a triangle, I guess it just short circuits, what you would ordinarily know. If you aren't very good with geometry, I'm pretty good with geometry. So there's nothing I really can't. I've never got cornered where I'm like, I have to go download an app that's a woodworking calculator. The one thing I personally use quite a bit is the conversions for weight and area and distance, between metric and, imperial. I do that all the time, going back and forth, not one to the other. I'm always going one to the other and back and forth. So that's a free app. That's just a...
Well, and you can do those type of conversions directly in Google. If you Google what is
absolutely.
X inches in millimeters, it will just give you the answer,
Yeah, that's one thing that's great that Google in the last couple of years, it just gives you answers to anything. In the beginning, you have to dig for an app that would do that, but now it's just anything. Like they don't really have translator anymore. It just shows up. It's like, all right, what is the language? Just tell me. It's like Google's like annoyed already. They're like, okay. It's like, let's get past the formalities of uploading a whole new page. Just tell me what you want me to do.
There's a thing, I haven't used this in several years, called Wolfram Alpha. Have you heard of this? I don't know the state of it now. I'm sure it's just more and more advanced than it was then. But it was an engine that would answer basically any question, and you could ask it, it wasn't Google where it's returning search results for pages. It was answering questions based on what it could find. And
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Siri pulls from that.
Probably, yeah. That makes sense. So you could say, like, what is the, I don't know, what's the difference, the density difference between the Earth and the Sun, or some crazy thing like that. And
Hold on.
Look up your woodworking calculator.
Siri, what's the density difference between the Earth and the Sun?
I don't even know how you would answer that question.
Let me check that.
Oh, she's good.
Here's what I found on the web for what's the density difference between the Earth and the Sun.
He has British Siri.
15 pounds. 15 pounds.
15 pounds. That sounds right.
That sounds right. It's like a gallon and a half. That's the difference.
It's like a 7-page calculation.
Well, that's my point. Is like when you ask her, she's Googling or Binging or whatever, trying to find a page that has an answer on it.
Can you guys tell her what the hell that means?
Wolfram Alpha was something that would actually it would try to compute the answer and give you the answer for whatever types. And it wasn't all measurement stuff. It's like anything, Mm-hmm. So it would be interesting to look up that site and see what the state of it is now and how you could use it to do some of the conversion type stuff. Maybe it would be overkill for that. I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes I have issues like I'm adding and subtracting fractions. So anytime I get beyond a quarter of an inch increments, I'm like, crap. Now what do I do?
It's funny. I'm always, and I have them because I've always like bought old machinist toolbox and stuff. There's always like that little conversion chart which shows you the decimal too. And I have a caliper which converts back and forth between fractions to decimal points, which is also useful. But I'm also just always jumping on the phone to Google to say, what is the decimal point for 5/16 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Oddly, using a CNC more in the last couple of years has embedded a lot of those answers in my brain already, because it was stuff that I never really had to figure out. Mm-hmm. And then
0.375.
Yes.
What is it?
I don't know.
3/8.
3.
Okay. Yeah. But some of that stuff.
0.125.
That's an eighth.
Very good.
Yeah. 0.0625.
FM.
Anyway,
I just guessed.
I like pop quizzes.
Pop quiz, hot shot. Yeah. So anyway, I think there's conversion tools that are probably be helpful. But other than that, I don't know what else you would use.
You know what I use my iPhone for constantly, and it's the most useful thing because I'm always dealing with clients, and they send me pictures and there's diagrams in some cases, and even drawings that I do. I'm always doing screenshots. So when you go through my phone, it's full of screenshots. Bob, we hung out this weekend. I said, everything that's like a bit of information I need to refer to again later, I just do a screenshot of it. I even do screenshots of, in our case, I get a lot of fan mail and fan mail that I have to reply to. And if I don't have the time to reply to that fan mail, I'll do a screenshot of the top of the email so I could remember their name. And I can go search their name later. Because if I go I'll just answer Eric back later. And then a day later, I'm like, I knew his name was began with a letter in the first half of the alphabet. And then I'm Googling A and seeing if any of those names ring a bell. B, any of those, you know what I'm saying? It's I think I'm going to remember stuff and I just absolutely don't. So more importantly, color schemes of stuff. People will send me swatches and pictures of color schemes. I just do a quick screen grab, and then it's kind of first and foremost in my photo album.
That's interesting. So you're using your your camera roll as like the one point of entry for you to find stuff in all these other.
Yeah, and then those are all just temporary bits of information that I can just go back and delete later. Like as a matter of fact, like look at my. I'm sorry, my phone is on. But if you notice, you see that those are all the Twitter questions that came in yesterday. I just did screen grabs of them as they came in so that I wouldn't forget to answer them later. And then I went through them one at a time in order as they came in. And then I'll delete them because I've already answered them.
I used to use this in the design world all the time. It doesn't really apply to woodworking, but there's an Adobe Color app. Like you can take a picture of something and it'll kind of average out the different colors in that picture, and then you can actually get a color palette from there. Like it'll pull complementary colors. I forget what it's called. Maybe it's just Adobe Color with a K. But it's a really cool app if you are trying to get a good color palette. And color is hard for some people. Sometimes it's hard for me.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking for complementary colors, it's a good app.
Interesting. Yeah, so Jimmy's flipping through. He has a bunch of different sketches and stuff that he has here.
Just conversations that I have with clients, and I'm like, oh, is this a good solve? This was in an email, and I just have to do a quick screen grab of it. Otherwise, I'll never remember where the hell to find it. So that's what really works for me, is just doing screen grabs. Like, look at this as a screen grab of just a little piece of a note, which I knew was very important. So I'll zoom into a picture and I'll just do a screen grab of it because that's the only thing I need to remember about it.
So as far as on my phone, I mean, I do use a lot of tools, and we've talked about a lot of these before. I don't want to rehash that same stuff, but Trello is something I use on the desktop and on my phone, and I use that a lot. Recently, I've started using the Reminders app from Apple, and all the Android has all the same stuff, just they're called different things. But I use the Reminders app as a checklist, and so what I've started doing now, and David, I know this is something you've done for a long time, is in the morning I'll open it up, type in a list of things that I want to try to get done in that day, and then I check them off as I go through. And if I don't, then they just carry over to the next day, and that helps me. Those are, I think of those as like tasks. Those are like little things, not like shoot a video. I can remember that I need to shoot a video, right? It's like, I need to edit this plan, or I need to take the screenshots of this video, or whatever little task thing that just has to happen.
Sometimes, I don't want to get off tangent here, but I will actually shoot the video on there because I get such a great satisfaction of checking that off when it's done. So I don't know, it's really satisfying to me and I can go back and I can see what I accomplished for the day. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. However it works for you to get your tasks done. I mean, like I said, I've used other tools, so I have kind of like a macro level of tasks and then a micro level of tasks, and so they're just kind of in different tools. One I look at on a daily basis, one I look at on an hourly basis, so that I know what I'm supposed to be doing next and what I have to do tomorrow. They're different things in my mind. So Jimmy
uses his hand, correct?
Yeah, look at my palm right now.
Yeah. His words all over it in Sharpie.
I was sitting, actually, I didn't, I told you guys very briefly, but I'll tell the audience. So Taylor's uncle works for Samsung. He's in charge of all the retail shops. Like he's in charge, if there's, 60,000 retail shops that sell Samsung products, he's in charge of them and hiring them and staffing them. It's incredible. It's an incredible job. So last night, Samsung opened up like their showcase store. They're not going to actually sell stuff, but all they're going to do is showcase new technology. You can come in, experience it. Their 4D virtual reality glasses, their new phones, their tablets, everything. So last night was the opening, and Florence and the Machine, who I don't know very well, I've only ever seen on Saturday Night Live, performed live, and we were sitting. It was a very intimate setting, but they did about 12-song set, and we were right in the front, and it was incredible. The most incredible singer I've probably seen live in person, as close as I was. She was great, and again, I didn't know what to expect, but it was really awesome. And I'm in the front row of this Samsung event, and Taylor's uncle asked me not to pull my iPhone out. He said, please don't pull your iPhone out because we're right in the front, and if we get photographed and you're holding an iPhone, it just won't look good for PR photos. And so in the middle, the event was at least an hour and 20, 30 minutes. It was a really long thing. So I kept writing on my palm things that I would have texted to myself or emailed to myself in between songs. So that's why I'm sitting there in the front row and I keep scribbling things on my palm that I have to remember to do when I get back home.
I love that your brain is always going and you're working even when you're not working.
Oh, I can't forget to do that when I get home at midnight. These little things that I always put off to the end of the day. And Sometimes I would email my other email account to remind myself, or open up and do a screen grab of the email.
I would leave myself a voicemail so I would remember to write myself an email to my other email account, and then I would text myself to remind myself to check my voicemail.
Yes.
Exactly. No. What I would do is, if I was able to open my phone in that circumstance, if we weren't like front and center at like a Samsung event, I would just open up certain emails and certain things I need to do and just do screen grabs of them, so that later when I get home, I just go through my pictures. And those are the things I have to remind myself to do, and emails I need to answer back. And so, yeah, it was fun. And that being said, I might actually, Samsung came out with a new 3D camera, so I was talking to Mike about maybe getting me one to play with. Do like a, Samsung virtual reality in my shop, which is something everybody keeps asking me to do. But they have a brand new 3D camera they're coming out with, so I might play around with that.
Do you guys find any of these applications, phones, screens, computers, a roadblock in the shop?
You know what I find? I sit down at Skype every time, and then also now I'm trying to learn Fusion 360, so I've been going through the tutorial. A lot of people talk about Fusion 360. We even talked about it over the weekend, Bob, right, when we were at that conference. Mm-hmm. A couple people talked about it, how it's such a powerful program, and it's free, and you could send directly to digital fabrication machines from it. You could make in it and then set up G-code right from it. And I just am having such a hard time with it. It's just very difficult for me, so...
Well, it's one of those things. I mean, if you're anything like me, it's one of those things that I will not learn until I have a reason to learn it. So no matter how much I want to, until I have a thing that I have to 3D print and I make myself sit down in front of that program instead of something different, that's how I'm going to learn it, But for me, software like that can often get in the way, where I sit down, okay, I'm going to do a SketchUp model. I can get through SketchUp pretty easily. So I start doing, and then I realize I don't know how to do this one thing. And I spend an hour learning how to do that one thing.
A fillet or a curve or an intersect. It's like always.
Any kind of curve. I just don't. It's like plumbing. I don't do it enough that I don't. I don't know it off the top of my head. So I have trouble with software and things in that way where I'm not familiar enough, and they get in the way. But it's usually only on occasion because I don't use them enough, personally. But
I don't usually let social media get in the way. Like, I'm usually like, glue is drying, so I'll check Twitter, or I maybe tweet a couple things and I'll check Twitter or Instagram. But on a day that I release a video, I cannot be productive because I am so curious on the comments coming in. Because that first hour is like, those are your core subscribers, right? Those are the ones that can't wait for your video to come out. And I'm always looking forward to what they have to say. And I just cannot get any work done on a day I release a video.
Well, I mean, you have to take that in, personally, I take that into consideration and I plan for that, right? So I know that when I release a video, I'm going to be glued to the computer that day. So I save up tasks for the few days before that only can work at the computer. And then when I sit down, I do those things. And if I get distracted, I'm not leaving the room to get distracted. I'm flipping windows, and then I flip back. And so I have tried, because I think that's an issue for everybody who is online, who creates things and put them out in whatever form.
Yeah.
You just have to save up the work that's going to be local to wherever you are. And I mean, that's just the same as saying like, well, metal work, I'm not going to do one little piece of metal work and the rest woodwork today. I'm going to save up my tiny little metalworking things until I can sit down and do all of them at the same time. It's like batching email or anything else. But yeah.
You guys want to have something funny? So I usually put a video out like at 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I go to sleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, typically, not always on a Sunday or a Saturday morning, I wake up and that's when I have, several comment emails. And those are usually in one thread. If you use an iPhone, they usually come in one thread. So I throw the whole thread away. So I immediately alleviate that many.
You can turn those off, Jimmy. I've told you that 100 times.
That's why I'm laughing, because I knew you would say that. So I throw that email. So I immediately delete hundreds of emails, and then I go to the actual video and I respond to them, within the video comment section, and I read through them in order of sequence in which they came. Because if you read them out of order, then there's like an argument that's happening. You don't know where it started. So I read them in sequence.
Right.
So.
See, okay, this is like one of those things where it's just a difference in personality and like what where we want to spend our time. No, I'm not dogging on you or anything like that.
You're right.
But it gets me thinking about, like, I have found that there's a lot of stuff like that, like deleting an email that I know I don't want, that's going to come in on a regular basis, it's far more useful for me to get rid of that like one little speed bump, because even though it only takes a second to delete an email, if I have to delete that same email 10 times a day or 100 times a week or whatever the thing is, it adds up to time that, is not spent doing something I want to do. Mm-hmm. So this is totally unrelated, but it made me think of it. So Jimmy's showing us his 417 unread emails. So, okay, this is totally unrelated, but I think it makes a point. I do most of the laundry in our house because the laundry room is right behind my desk. And so it's in a space that I'm already in, so it kind of makes sense that I do a lot of it. But I found that I wasted so much time matching socks for 4 kids. It's ridiculous, right? And so it dawned on me that, and another thing is turning shirts inside out. Every time I do laundry and I have to turn 100 shirts inside out, or right side out because they're inside out, that's a waste of a huge amount of time in one sitting. Whereas if you take that and you break that down to each time a kid takes a shirt off, if they can turn it right side out, it puts a little bit of load, a spread across a week versus a lot of load spread across 30 minutes. And same thing for matching socks. Like, you don't need to match 30 pairs of socks at one time. You match a pair of socks when you put them on in the morning. That way it spreads that load. So that same concept, I think, works in like the shop. Like, do you sweep up after every single time you make a cut on a table saw? No, that would be stupid. You wait till you're done with the work and then you sweep up, So anyway, there's a lot of things like that, like checking email, like deleting emails and like answering notifications and all these little things that are handy, but they can also get in the way if it's something that you have to stop your train of thought to take care of. Mm-hmm. That makes sense?
Yeah, sure.
In all of this, what I have learned, though, is as in making YouTube videos, also in office and shop organization, everybody has a different way of doing things, and what works for them, right?
Oh,
so,
yeah, no doubt.
Like Jimmy just taking screenshots of everything. Taking a screenshot of an email, to some people, sounds crazy. But that's a method that works really well for Jimmy, right?
Yeah.
You guys are talking about me like I'm like the
no.
mental patient in the room.
We'll call him James, and then he will.
But that works for him. That's a method that he found that works for him. And the same thing is like, we've all been asked, like, what's the formula for making to have a successful YouTube channel? Well, it's different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like, we do 3 different things, and you put 10 people in a room, and everybody does something different. So there is no magic formula except for make good content or have an organization set up that works for you.
Yeah. And, that's the same thing applies to, like, we're talking about that stuff relative to creating content, but the tools that we use to do our job would inhibit somebody whose main job was making furniture. If that's their thing that pays their bills is making furniture, and they want to also be included or be a part of or invested in YouTube could be a deterrent for them to actually get their work done, And so it's like, you're totally right. It depends on what you do and what you need to get your job done. And then, your personality, of course, goes into it, what's useful and what's not useful and all that. But I think it's interesting because, like, the output of your job really has a lot to do with what tools are useful or not useful. What gets in the way and what actually makes your job easier to do. Mm-hmm. It's very different.
Actually, today before we talked, and actually today's a good example. I can't always turn my volume off, so I hear my phone go bing. I got a text message. Bing. I got a text message. And then there's certain people in my life, which it's hard for me or you to change somebody else's behavior, but they send me a text message, and instead of writing one long sentence, they say, today, send, I send, want to send, you a send. And so my phone's going on the other end, it's going bang, 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 bang. And I think the world is ending. And I come over there and somebody has some silly question, but they didn't structure it in one sentence. They kept having these random thoughts. And like I said, there's a few people in my life that send me messages like that. So from time to time, I turn my ringer off. But today I kind of got lost in the day, and I didn't turn my ringer off. And Bob, you texted me and you said, we're doing a podcast today. Would you like to join us? And I was like, if I turn my phone off, there are times when I turn my ringer off. I don't look at my phone I get like submerged in my work, and I don't look at my phone for an hour. and there's like 25 text messages, and 2 or 3 of them are urgent. Most of them are garbage, but like today would have been urgent if I kept you guys held up till 5 o'clock. I would have felt horrible. But just because I got lost in thought and Siri forgot to remind me.
There's a tool on the iPhone. This is iPhone specific, I believe. So Android people, sorry. The VIP stuff. Are you familiar with the VIP?
Mm-hmm.
So you can set certain people as VIPs, and then when you put your phone on Do Not Disturb, you don't get notifications for anything except for those people.
Oh, that's good.
So like I
would
do
that with Taylor, but I mean, I should add you guys to it too in case I'm ever forgot again. Well, it's only 60. It's like the first time I think I totally forgot. Yeah. Is it? Because
this is 60.
But I'm saying, is this the first time I totally forgot to join you guys?
Well, I mean, like we do 2 episodes a week, and you're here for half of them. So, yeah, I just didn't want to say anything.
You got me. That was funny. I'm like, wait a minute. There's another podcast that you guys do.
Yeah, it's called Making It Without Jimmy. That's what that one's called.
I'm sorry. I live in fear of that. I every single day I say to Taylor, I said, there's something important that's happening, and that I'm supposed to be there. Like, did I guys tell you guys, I went to Arizona Cocktail Week where I made the bar, which is my latest video. For some reason, one day when I looked at the calendar, I have a calendar in my bathroom at my workshop, I X'd off a whole week that didn't pass. But my brain told me this whole week is already done because I looked at I don't know why, like I X'd right away. And so now it's 7:30 on a Friday night, February 5th. The actual Friday, the next Friday, I think was February 12th. I was supposed to be on a plane to Arizona. But I had X'd off all the way right up until February 12th for some reason, like sometime around February 3rd. I don't know if you guys are sticking with me on this. Yeah. So I get out of school and I'm hanging out with Dave in the workshop, and it's like 7:30 on Friday night, and I look at and I go in the bathroom to use the bathroom, and I look up at the wall and I see the calendar and I go, I run out in a panic and I run inside to Dave. I'm like, what is today's date? I'm supposed to be on a plane to Arizona right now. And I'm panicking and I'm looking around and I'm like, I could still get a plane at midnight. I could be there tomorrow morning. I could start building this bar at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. I literally panicked for about 30 seconds and Dave goes, it's February 5th. Calm down. It's February 5th. And I calmed down. But then I ran in the bathroom and I was having one of those moments where you like wake up and you don't know where you are because you slept at a stranger's house or whatever. You ever have a sleepover with a stranger and you wake up and you don't know where you are for like 3 minutes?
Not typically, no.
Not in a while.
Not a stranger, but you stay at like your mother's house or something.
Oh, yeah, that's totally different than...
I meant to say outside your routine. Anyway, so I don't know why I did that. It was like a brain fart and I X'd off like a whole week. But I remember doing it like, 4 or 5 days before that. It was the beginning of February and I'm like, oh, okay, this whole week is gone. And I X'd it all off. I'm like, wait a minute. Anyway, I panicked and I had an extra week to get to Arizona, but I really panicked there for a minute. But that's this fear I live in of always feel like I'm missing something. I'm forgetting something. Yeah. So.
Hey Siri, set a reminder for next Tuesday to record a podcast at 3:45.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Cool. Well, we have anything else on tools being handy or not handy, getting in the way?
Can I think. Can I join the other podcast?
No, you can't. Just forget about it.
We're making it without you. See what I did there. I think it extends beyond digital tools because, like I've told you guys lately, that I've given away a bunch of tools. I've given some things away just recently. Craig, what's up, Craig? I gave him some stuff, and then Derek was in my shop. I gave him some stuff, and I think I've given away all the tools I don't need. I have a couple little weird like T-track clamps that I don't know what to do with, but I'm thinning out my shop, and it just makes me feel so much better when all these things are not in the way, they're not cluttering up a drawer. And I know, Jimmy, you have the opposite approach. You want everything, and you like the look of chaos in your shop.
No, I mean I don't. It's just my compromise because I can't help myself but not clean up. But lately, Willie's been really helping me clean up. He's doing a tremendous job. And I come in and like things that have been in place for years are in boxes, and I try not to get anxious about it because I'm like, you know what? If there's anything I really need, it's in that box. Or, we've also been giving a lot of stuff away, just putting it on the street. Mm-hmm. So no, I need to do more of what you described. It's just and when I ultimately move out of here, I'm going to have to do that. There's not going to be a choice.
It's funny because like I think in regards to that thing, I'm right in between you guys because I don't necessarily want to get rid of things that I don't use I mean, if I don't use it in a really long time, of course I don't need it. But I don't want to just like clear everything out to have a minimum amount of stuff, because I want to have access to things when I need them. So my focus, instead of getting rid of them, is organizing them and making sure that they're in a place where that, so I don't have to spend half a day looking for whatever tool, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. We all three have a very different, not too different, but just a different approach to that as well.
Right. Well, cool.
Well,
mine is the desperation approach. No time to do anything else.
Yeah.
And everything's due. No, I don't know. Lately, I feel like I'm too busy to like really focus on a lot of different things. So I gotta kind of reorganize my time. This is my own little anxiousness. So I apologize.
And have we just talked about time management before? I mean, I know we touch on it almost every week in some sort of way, but time management is something I struggle is not the right word, but it's something I battle a lot. And I know all the things that I'm supposed to do, but I still find like things get in the way, like those extra trips to the store. Like I just want to talk about time management more in the future. And there's that word that you always bring up, Bob, is expectations of you. Like I think there are a lot of people there. Like I got in some complaints this week. Maybe complaint's not the right word, but I've gotten some comments this week like, you're not putting out enough videos like you said you were. And I'm like, okay, your expectations are different than mine, and I'm trying. I'm doing my best, but things get in the way, and my my whole business is more than just videos. There's this whole other world of the blog and everything. So I don't know. I just want to talk about time more. It'd be a good therapy session, at least for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we could definitely talk about that. It would be interesting to hear when we talk about that beforehand, to get some input from people listening now, because there could be some people that have like really good, time management tips. Mm-hmm. So if you guys want to send us those, if you're listening and you want to send them through Twitter or through email or something, maybe we can include some outside ideas in what we talk about.
Awesome.
So yeah, we'll do that. You guys want to talk about what we're watching?
Sure. So for me, some people know that I'm a huge baseball fan, baseball nerd, and I was listening to the Cleveland Indians podcast the other day, and one of their starting pitchers, Trevor Bauer, has a YouTube channel, and it's called Bauer Outage, which is an awesome name. And and so he's a pitcher in the major leagues, and he has this YouTube channel, and he's really into drones, and he's just starting to get into video editing. He says he just loves video editing and loves drones. And so I recently subscribed to his channel, and there's a few drone videos on there that show some of his workouts and stuff. But he says he's taken his drones to all the Major League Baseball parks this year and is going to do flyovers and film them and put them on his channel. So if you're into baseball, if you're into drones, it could be a cool channel to check out. There's only 1,500 subscribers, and he just seems like a really cool dude. I like anybody who has multiple passions, right? So I have multiple passions, and this guy says, obviously he loves baseball, and he was talking about how he loves college basketball and he loves video editing and drones and technology. It's a really cool channel. Bob.
Yes. Well, for me, I think I'm just gonna say the video with the shovel. So Rob Scallon's video of playing the shovel that I made. I think everybody should see it. It's pretty awesome. He's just really good. He plays all sorts of different types of music. He's a really excellent guitar player. A lot of the videos that he has are heavy metal. But even if that's not your thing, he has a lot of other types of stuff that he's done over the years. So.
If I may say, I'm not into heavy metal, but I love his channel because he's just so talented, and he does these little challenges where like 1 fret songs or 1 note songs or whatever, and it just blows my mind. Yeah. So you don't have to be into heavy metal to like his channel.
Yeah, not at all. He did like a few of them recently. He did a Bach song in the style of heavy metal, which was pretty amazing. He's played some Metallic songs backwards. Have you seen those?
No.
He played Enter Sandman backwards and then reversed the footage. So you're listening to it forward, but he's playing and singing the entire thing backwards. It's crazy. Oh. He's like in a different place. He just does really awesome stuff. But a lot of it's just super creative and super fun. So
cool.
Go check out Rob.
Cool. Jimmy, what are you watching?
What am I watching? I know I've talked about my friend Lou before, but I'm going to talk about him again. Tips from a Shipwright. You guys have to really tune in and pay attention to this guy. He is an amazing old school woodworker, boat builder, but all the techniques he talks about are techniques that apply to everything that's handmade and tools and everything. He's just got a million tricks. He talks about how to start a chainsaw. He talks about how to resharpen an old hand saw. And I mean, it's very boat centric because that's what he does for a living, but he really talks about how tools are used and little shortcuts and things. You could be inspired by him to reapply some of the techniques he does in building boats to whatever it is you build. And if you build boats, it's a perfect fit. So tips from a Shipwright. Check him out.
Well, before we go, I want to thank John Cornwell, Luis Gonzalez, Sean Petty, and Jeremy White, and everybody else from Patreon for supporting the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very awesome that we get support from people. Helps us keep doing the show. So we're really grateful. And if you want to support the show even a little bit, it'd be awesome. You can go to patreon.com/makingit, or you can just share the show around, leave us a review on iTunes, any of that stuff. It would be awesome.
Yes.
So that's it for number 60. Guess we'll see you guys next week. Yeah.
Good one. Love you. Love you. Yes, you know?